Covering the community, events, and people of Georgia, Carolina. This is the Means Report. Here is Brad Means.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Means Report. So happy that you are spending part of your Sunday with us. We do appreciate it, and we do promise to make it well worth your while. Take a look at the busy agenda that we have on tap today. We're going to talk to South Carolina Congressman Joe Wilson of the 2nd District. You know, South Carolina just getting clearance to put armed guards outside their National Guard recruiting centers in the wake of that shooting in Chattanooga. Governor Nikki Haley making that move. We'll get the big picture from Congressman Wilson on gun control and guarding those recruiting offices, his thoughts on that and all of the hot issues facing his district and our nation. Also coming up, the head of Georgia Regents Cancer Center, he's Dr. Samir Khalif, and he's going to talk about President Jimmy Carter's cancer diagnosis, what it means for the former leader, and what's being done right here at home to research and maybe one day prevent this dreaded disease. And finally, retirement surprises. Our financial expert is here, Jeff Fairman, to help you plan for your golden years. But first, we're going to kick it off with District 2 Republican incumbent Congressman Joe Wilson out of South Carolina, a post he's held since 2001. Congressman Wilson, I know you're busy. We thank you for stopping by.
And Brad, it's a great honor to be with you, and it's a great honor to represent the people of the 2nd District, which includes all of Aiken and all of Barnwell counties.
Well, you know, they're going to be seeing a lot of you in the coming days on your bus tour, right?
Yes. Each year in August, we do a bus tour around the district. I really am grateful. People will visit our offices, Aiken, Barnwell, Lexington, Columbia, and they'll mention, or Washington, and say, hey, please come by. They don't realize that we then put that in a file and we connect the dots. And so in August, we do a bus tour of going and visiting different businesses and schools and enterprises across the district, and it's just very, very helpful to me to fulfill a campaign pledge I made of being accessible and accountable.
Well, I know the voters appreciate it. You know, I want to talk about something that has happened since your last visit. Congressman Wilson, kind enough to stop by a few months ago, but since then, in your hometown of Charleston, we've had the deadly shooting at the AME church down there, and then the huge Charleston Heart that has opened up ever since. Your thoughts on that incident and the way your hometown has responded?
And Brad, it is my birthplace, and I was so pleased to see the very first reports of the shooting was showing people hugging in front of Emmanuel AME Church there on Calhoun Street. And from the beginning, the people of Charleston have come together. I was there the next afternoon. I flew down on a jet with the Attorney General of the United States, and I was there with Congressman Tom Rice, and we placed flowers at the church. And every time, every effort to see the love and appreciation. And then it's particularly horrifying to know that the person who committed this heinous crime actually planned a race war. The consequence was the opposite. The people of South Carolina, the people of Georgia, have come together and expressed great sympathy. We have a level of civility and love and affection between the communities of our states, and so I'm proud of how South Carolina responded, but I'm just so horrified that anything like that could occur.
Well, and you look at that occurrence in Charleston and, of course, the shootings that we mentioned in Chattanooga outside the military recruiting offices. Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina this week saying she's going to put armed National Guardsmen and women in front of those recruiting offices. Do we need something at the federal level done as far as gun control, or do these things just happen?
Well, on the state level, I'm really grateful, and it's very personal to Governor Haley and myself. Governor Haley's husband is a member of the National Guard. I'm a 31-year veteran of the Guard, and I have 3 sons currently serving in the Guard, so it's personal. But at the same time, I'm very pleased that Congress had acted prior to the terrorist incident in Chattanooga, and we had proposed in the National Defense Authorization Act, and I'm on the conference committee, that the military commanders have the ability to determine whether people should be armed or not. It's really so sad to me the President has ignored the threats of ISIS and ISIL, Daesh. They promised that there would be events and attacks on military personnel in the United States, around the world, but in the United States. And so it's no question this was a terrorist act. They still are studying whether it was a terrorist act. What are you studying? This is a terrorist act. They promised they would do it. Congress had acted, and we do have it in the National Defense Authorization Act. This will come up later this fall, but I believe that military personnel should be armed. I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity in the State Senate of South Carolina to be the floor leader for the Concealed Weapons Permit bill. At the time, liberals said this would lead to shootout in OK Corral. We now have many years of what the actual consequence is, and that is making people safer, reducing crime, and deterring criminals from committing criminal conduct.
Let me talk to you from your position on the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees. You certainly have a ton of credibility in those areas to talk about the alleged deal with Iran when it comes to its nuclear program. Just a few hours before this taping, your colleague in the Senate, Lindsey Graham, said that it's like inmates checking on the prison because there's supposedly a part of this agreement where Iran says, yeah, you're not going to check on this site. It's too important to our nation's military. Our people got this. What do you think of that whole deal?
Well, sadly, Brad, this is it's virtually insane. And that is that the more you find out about it, and I'm really pleased, initially, and this should be bipartisan, I had the opportunity twice recently to be with former Senator Joe Lieberman. He has said that members of Congress should vote against it, and equally, they should vote to override the president's veto.
I read somewhere, though, Congressman, where even if you did, basically the president needs 1/3 of the members of either House or Senate, either House of Congress. You don't stand a chance of overriding it, do you?
I believe we do. Because initially, it's inconceivable, but the initial reports were that a majority of the American people supported the agreement. Then, the more they found out about it, so it's like Obamacare, okay, everything for free for everybody. They found out that wasn't true. And so the good news is that the American people now understand the consequence that when people promise death to America and death to Israel, that's what they mean. And so the good news is that a vast majority of the American people now oppose this. And we've already seen there was one Republican, amazingly, who was on the fence. He has announced this week he's no longer on the fence. The people of his home state of Arizona let him know what they thought. And so I'm really hopeful in a bipartisan way. In fact, we have a town hall meeting on Tuesday evening at USC Aiken, and we will be, it's an hour-long town hall to discuss the Iranian nuclear deal. The more people find out about it, the more they will oppose it. It really is a dangerous decision by the President of the United States, putting the American people at risk, putting the people of Israel at risk. It's just inconceivable to me that such an agreement could be reached. It is putting all Americans at risk, just releasing tens of billions of dollars.
So you're not closing the door on this thing being undone?
Oh, hey, we're going to work to undo it. And then when people are saying, well, it won't have any consequence, it does. Because if the United States, as Congress has provided, if we provide for the sanctions that really are meaningful, these sanctions could affect the ability of Iran to finance terrorist activities around the world. This is important.
Let me ask you about this. Another thing that's quite important, as the chair of the subcommittee on emerging threats and capabilities, you're well aware of the bad guys who hate us and what they might do. We've mentioned terrorism on our own soil. We've mentioned the looming threat of nations like Iran. Anything else that's on the radar screen? We talked cyber terrorism last time that's coming at us.
Oh, it's at every angle. And sadly, we know something. Ronald Reagan was correct. You have peace through strength. Our enemies today see a weak president, a president who, according to the Defense Intelligence Agency head, General Michael Hayden, has a policy of willful ignorance. But the sad consequence is people are losing their lives. 7,000 people have died in Ukraine because of the weakness of the United States. We have tens of thousands of people who have been killed by chemical and biological weapons in Syria. The president has turned his he developed a red line, and then he announced it wasn't his red line. And then to negotiate with the mass murderers, people who provided the IEDs to kill American troops from Tehran. And then now to turn a blind eye to, again, a totalitarian dictatorship in Cuba. Again, an insult to the people of Cuba who've been working for years for freedom and liberation.
We have about 45 seconds left. You're on the Republican Policy Committee. Do you guys stand a chance of taking the White House in a year or so? And how are you going to beat Hillary?
Well, I believe it can be done, and I believe it's really going to be a situation of multiplication through division. We've got good candidates, great candidates, and gosh, here in CSRA, you get to see a candidate every other day.
You do.
So this is good, and we've got great candidates, and I'm confident. And sadly, Secretary Clinton is being revealed as being not forthcoming or truthful relative to the murders in Benghazi.
Who will win the GOP nomination?
This is what makes it exciting. Having 17 candidates, and again, the people of our region are going to get to know them personally. I was excited to see that Governor Perry's going to be here next week, that we have Dr. Ben Carson later in September. But hey, I could go down a checklist. In Lexington, Donald Trump is coming.
It'll be busy.
So it's going to be a busy, positive time.
Congressman Joe Wilson of the 2nd District of South Carolina, thank you for your service to our nation. Thank you for your family's military service and political service. His son is speaking at the Exchange Club after we leave here. Attorney General of South Carolina, Alan, we appreciate you.
Honored to be serving and just grateful for the privilege and opportunity of serving the people of South Carolina.
Stay with us, everybody. When the Means Report continues, Dr. Samir Khalif talking cancer research right down the road at Georgia Regents, as well as former President Jimmy Carter's battle with the disease. Stay with us.